Hello and thank you so much for joining me today. Today I'm sharing with you an altered wood slice that I created. For this piece I was actually really inspired by October's challenge board. As you can see, there's lots of white flowers, the wood tones, and the tiny bit of rust color is actually in the palette of the mood board if you look real close. Because I plan to use a lot of mediums on this wood slice, I wanted to start with a clear coat of gesso, and I'm adding that kind of heavy. But I really wanted to make sure that the mediums would not just soak into the wood. Anyhow, while I had that out, I went ahead and added some to the resin pieces that I knew I was going to use because I wasn't sure what I was going to do with them yet. Now I started to add a little bit of texture in the background, and for this I'm using one of Finnabair's stencils and some gold nugget paste. This paste will dry clear, but it does have the beautiful flakes of gold glitter and some black sand in it. With the gel in place, I set it aside to air dry, and I pulled out this sheet of AB Studio paper so I could fussy cut some of these flowers out. I didn't make you watch me do that because that would be painful. Next, I'm moving on to the resin pieces. I've decided I want to paint them with some metallic paints. This one I believe is Steampunk Copper. I will have all the products I've used below in the description, but I didn't show you for some reason. Anyhow, I'm going to go ahead and place that with some 3D gloss gel, and now I'm going to paint the fairy. This is obviously one of Finnabair's molds. I'm sure a lot of you have them. They came out a couple years back. But I'm going to go ahead and paint this with this copper color. And I'm going to grunge it up a little bit with some liquid acrylics. And for this I used umber and burnt sienna. So I'm just moving this around the fairy, and I'm kind of setting it as I'm working with it with the heat tool. And that's just so it gets in all the recessed areas of the fairy, just trying to make her look a little antiqued, I guess. Now I'm going to continue to add color to the background using rustic brown and lots of water, as you can see. And I'm just kind of moving this around, making it pretty much like a watercolor with a little bit of mica in it. And that's just to color the background a tiny bit. After I was happy with that, I'm going to go ahead and put my fairy into place using some 3D gloss gel. And I'm going to move on to my rust paste. Now I do move through this quite quickly, but I'm going to use all three colors in the rust paste. I use the dark brown, followed by the orangey red color, and then the yellow. And I'm just going to play with it until I'm happy with it. There's no rhyme or reason to where I'm placing it. I'm just trying to grunge up this board just a tiny little bit. You see, I'll add water and I'll just move it around until I'm happy with it, and I'll dab it away and dry. Continuing with the red color. Then I'm going to move on to the yellow. And I use the yellow very sparingly. I don't know if it's just too bright for me or it stands out too much, but I do use it very, very sparingly, as you can see. Next, I'm going to move on to some resin pieces that I decided after the fact to add to this piece. And once I'm putting them on the slice, I decide that they really should be rusted as well. So you'll see that I have rusted them off camera. There they are. And now I'm adhering them into place. And I just needed something to build up the background a tiny little bit before I started to add my flowers. So after adhering them with some 3D gloss gel, I started to add my flowers. Now this, I did speed up quite a bit, and I cut a lot of it out because I'm placing flowers and it's painful. I rip them off, I start over, I move them around, I change my mind, I go back. You can see where they end up, and you can see that I'm moving them around and just trying to figure out where they were. And honestly, I walk away from this a couple times and I come back. I think I went and made dinner. I probably went and picked the kids up. I left it sit for a day. Couldn't decide what I wanted to do. Now that I have the flowers in place, I'm going to go ahead and add some of the paper flowers that I fussy cut out of the AB Studio paper. These are darling, and they are filling it in quite a bit and making the project come to life for me, and I appreciate that greatly because I was really frustrated with this project at this point in time. But I was too far in to give up, so I continued. So I'm adding some paper flowers now. And you'll see I'm trying to make this large flourish fit, and it just doesn't. So I took the one at the bottom and swapped it out, and that's why you see the small one there and the large one's now at the bottom. But I did that off camera because I had to rip it around quite a bit and it was a hot mess. Anyhow, moving on. I'm adding that tiny little heart to the center of my focal point, and I'm coloring it red. And now I'm going to continue to add some rusty leaves in. So you'll see I'm just tucking these in to wherever I feel like there's something missing. And they get moved around a little bit too, but that's pretty much where they were. At this point in time, I'm trying to decide if I like this or if I don't like this yet, and what I can do to make me like this more. So I'm trying to add the little bits that usually finish off a project. So I went ahead and started adding some micro beads, and I'm doing that with some soft glass gel, and I'm just sprinkling them into place. I do repeat this quite a bit, and I use 2 tones of micro beads, but you only see the one because I'm sprinkling micro beads and there's no reason for you to watch that. And now I'm going to go ahead and add some crushed glitter. For this, I wanted it to be a little bit thicker, so I'm adding some glassy accents to adhere that. You can see me sprinkling, but now I'm still not there yet, so I'm going to go ahead and add some white gold wax, and this is going to start to bring out things, and it makes me much happier with the project. So now I'm starting to feel like I'm on the right track. As you've noticed, I've ripped off some of the side of the paper flowers that I had in that rusty area, and I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to fix that. So I add some pieces of resin and some art stones, you can see there, and now I'm going to go back in and add some rust paste just to kind of grunge that up to balance the project out a little bit. There was too much white on both sides of my focal point, and it was taking away from what I wanted you to see. So that really pretty much wraps up my project. I hope you've enjoyed my process. I did fall in love with this project after everything I started over and moved around and changed in the middle. But you know, that's just how it works sometimes. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you'll consider giving this video a thumbs up or letting me know your thoughts in the comments. And that's it. I'll see you next time. Thanks again. Bye-bye.